This is The Wire for 2300 Zulu, October 15th, 2025. Precedence is routine. Information cutoff is 2200. Bottom line up front. Caribbean War continues as Pentagon sinks fast boat and strategic aviation conducts show-of-force operations. Conflict between Pakistan and Afghanistan continues. SecWar's plane suffers emergency while returning to the United States. Beginning with international events, in Afghanistan, the conflict between the Taliban and Pakistan flared up again overnight before both sides agreed to another ceasefire. Despite the various statements of ceasefire by both sides, random skirmishes continue. Pakistan conducted airstrikes in Kabul once again, and Afghan forces conducted random skirmishes at a few border checkpoints along the Durand Line that designates the border between the two nations. In Ireland, a mass stabbing was reported in the vicinity of Groton Wood in Dublin. One individual was killed and two others wounded during the attack. No further details have been provided at this time. Analysts comment. Local media has reported that this attack took place at a residence, which is misleading. The location of the attack was inside a care home that houses underage migrants. In the Caribbean, yesterday, the War Department announced the kinetic targeting of another fast boat off the coast of Venezuela, bringing the total to 5 vessels sunk so far during this campaign. In the United Kingdom, this afternoon, American Secretary of War Pete Hegseth made an unplanned emergency landing due to an incident involving his aircraft. The SecWar was returning to the U.S. from Belgium when a crack appeared in the windscreen of the aircraft, which possibly caused a depressurization incident. The pilots made an emergency descent to roughly 6,000 feet AGL and proceeded to land safely without further incident. On the home front, in Washington, D.C., D.C. Judge Kendra Briggs authorized the release of the 2 individuals who assaulted Edward Korestein after sentencing them to probation. Both individuals, who have not been identified as they are allegedly juveniles, will face 0 jail or juvenile detention time for their violent attack on Korestein, who was a high-ranking member of the Doge team investigating government fraud during the initial months of President Trump's term. Korestein had intervened to stop a carjacking at a parking garage in D.C., which resulted in a gang of roughly a dozen juveniles beating him, breaking his nose during the assault. The 2 individuals prosecuted in this case were the only 2 in the group that were caught. In North Carolina, following a series of attempted murders in Charlotte on Sunday, the individual who conducted the stabbing of 2 people has been released from jail. Paulette Gibson, who has an extensive criminal history, was released from jail on $20,000 bail, roughly 48 hours after nearly stabbing 2 people to death during a street fight. Analysts comment. In the wake of the exceptionally brutal murder of Irina Zaritska, North Carolina has passed legislation to stop the practice of cashless bail and overhaul the bail system so as to reduce the likelihood that violent offenders would be released. This was a hotly contested bill that required a veto-proof majority to pass, as the governor threatened repeatedly to veto it. Eventually, the bill was passed and became law on October 1st, but nevertheless, Gibson was released on bail anyway. Analyst comments for this wire. This morning, plane watchers noted the presence of several B-52 Stratofortress bombers conducting operations just north of Venezuela. So far, the War Department has not commented on this development, and it's not clear as to if these transponder pings are genuine or the result of other platforms spoofing the identities of these aircraft. If genuine, this is undoubtedly a show of force. No operational deployment of B-52s would involve the pilots leaving their transponders turned on, so this was 100% intended to be picked up by the Venezuelans. A secondary goal of these flights could either be general training for future bombings in Venezuela or an attempt to lull Venezuelan forces into a false sense of security. B-52s aren't exactly hard to see, even on the ancient early warning radar sites that Venezuela has at their disposal, though it's assessed that probably half of these radar sites are not operational. Nevertheless, these flights, combined with the continual targeting of fast boats by sea, is adding to the steady increase in likelihood that a much wider war may be on the horizon. This concludes The Wire for 2300 Zulu, October 15th, 2025.